Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, today I want to talk to you about something simple, but powerful. It's a principle that can change the way you carry yourself, how people perceive you, and even how you rise above the storms in your life. That principle is this: don't tell people your problems. It's a difficult truth to swallow, but one that, once accepted, can make you stronger, wiser, and more emotionally independent. Most people don't really care about your problems. They may listen out of politeness, they might nod with sympathy, and a few might even offer words of encouragement. But deep down, everyone is primarily focused on their own life, their own worries, and their own battles. That's not meant to sound harsh. It's simply human nature. We all carry invisible loads, and our capacity to carry someone else's emotional baggage, especially on a regular basis, is limited. In a world filled with noise where everyone is shouting to be heard, on social media and conversations at work, what often happens is that people tune out. They're overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overloaded. So when you approach someone and begin unloading your problems, unless that person is deeply connected to you or trained to help, like a counselor or therapist, chances are their interest is shallow and short-lived. They might offer the classic lines, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," or "That must be hard," but once the conversation ends, your pain leaves no lasting imprint on their mind. They return to their routine, to their own concerns, and your moment of vulnerability becomes just another passing interaction. This doesn't make people bad, it makes them human. Each of us wakes up every day with a list of worries, family, bills, relationships, health, dreams, disappointments, and most people are barely staying afloat themselves. Expecting others to carry your burdens on top of theirs is like asking someone drowning to hold your hand and pull you up. They might try, but more often than not, both of you sink a little. Relying too heavily on others to understand your pain or fix your problems can lead to disappointment. You may start to notice how people avoid you when you speak too often about what's wrong in your life. They may label you as a negative or a draining, even if your feelings are valid and your experience is real. This isn't because they don't care at all. It's because they don't have the energy or emotional space to process your struggles in addition to their own. Over time, this can isolate you more than help you. There's also another danger. Sharing your problems too freely can open the door to judgment, gossip, or even manipulation. Not everyone who listens has good intentions. Some people may appear empathetic but are only gathering information. Others may use your weaknesses against you, subtly or overtly. Hi, books. And even if they don't, there's always the risk of being seen through a lens of limitation. People start to associate you more with your struggles than your strengths. You become the person going through something instead of the person who's capable, resilient, and full of potential. This is why emotional strength often comes from learning to manage your pain privately or within a trusted, limited circle. It doesn't mean pretending you're okay when you're not. It means being selective with your vulnerability. It means recognizing that not every emotion needs a stage and not every problem needs to be announced. Some battles are best fought in silence, where you can process, reflect, and grow without the pressure of public opinion or the weight of unwanted pity. Of course, we all need someone at times. And it's absolutely healthy to seek help when you're struggling, especially from those you trust deeply or professionals trained to support you. But as a general life principle, it's wise not to make a habit of sharing every problem with every person. The more you internalize the truth that most people don't truly care, the more you'll learn to lean into your own strength, rely on your inner voice, and develop the emotional resilience that sets strong people apart from the rest. Because here's the beautiful twist in all of this: when you stop expecting people to care, you free yourself. You stop waiting for validation. You stop being disappointed when others don't react the way you hoped. You start solving your problems instead of just talking about them. And ironically, that's when people start noticing. Not when you tell them about your problems, but when you show them how you overcame them. People may not care when you're struggling, but they'll pay attention when you're thriving. They'll be inspired by your story after you've risen, not while you're in the pit. So rise, do the work quietly. Let your success make the noise. In conclusion, the idea that most people don't care about your problems isn't meant to make you bitter. It's meant to make you better. It's a call to shift your focus from external sympathy to internal strength. It's about realizing that your healing, your growth, and your breakthrough don't depend on how many people know about your pain. They depend on how you choose to deal with it. So stop looking for shoulders to cry on and start building the backbone to carry yourself forward. Because once you stop telling everyone your problems, you'll discover the power of solving them on your own. One of the easiest things to do when life gets difficult is to complain. It's natural, almost instinctive. You face disappointment, you get frustrated, things don't go as planned. And before you even realize it, you start talking about how unfair it all is. You vent to your friends, post about it online, or mutter under your breath about how hard life has become. In the moment, it feels like a release, like a pressure valve. But here's the truth. Complaining doesn't solve anything. It doesn't move you forward, it doesn't change your circumstances, and it certainly doesn't bring you closer to the life you want. Complaining is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. You can spend hours talking about your problems, blaming people, pointing fingers, or listing all the reasons why things are hard. But at the end of the day, you're still in the same place. Nothing has changed except now you've given more energy to the problem than the solution. That's the trap. Complaining convinces you that talking about it is progress, but it's not. It's just noise. Temporary relief. A way to express the pain without facing it. The more you complain, the more you feed a negative mindset. It becomes a cycle. You start to see problems everywhere, even when they're small. You begin to expect things to go wrong. Your brain trains itself to look for what's broken instead of what's working. And soon, that's all you talk about. That's all you focus on. It clouds your thinking, steals your peace, and makes it harder to see solutions. Complaining doesn't just waste time, it builds walls around your ability to grow. Another thing people often don't realize is that constant complaining affects how others see you. At first, people might listen and offer sympathy. But if it becomes a pattern, they start to tune out. They stop seeing you as someone who's struggling and start seeing you as someone who's stuck. Complaining sends a message, not just about your situation, but about your mindset. It says, I'm not in control. I'm waiting for someone else to fix this. That doesn't inspire confidence. It doesn't attract support. It drains people and pushes them away. There's also a difference between venting and complaining. Venting can be healthy when it's done with the right person and for the right reason, to release tension and gain perspective. But when venting turns into constant complaining with no intention to take action, it becomes toxic. It's no longer about expressing emotion, it's about avoiding responsibility. It becomes easier to talk about the problem than to do something about it. The most successful people in life, whether in business, relationships, or personal development, understand this principle. They don't spend their time complaining. They spend their time creating, building, improving. They understand that energy is limited, and if you waste it on negativity, you won't have any left for progress. Life is hard for everyone. But those who rise above it aren't the ones who talk about how hard it is. They're the ones who take steps, however small, to move forward anyway. You always have a choice. Every time you're tempted to complain, you can stop and ask yourself, what can I do about this? Sometimes the answer is obvious. Sometimes it's not. But even asking that question shifts your focus from helplessness to action. And that shift changes everything. It brings clarity. It brings solution. It reminds you that even when things are out of your control, your attitude is always your stone. Another powerful way to break the habit of complaining is to replace it with gratitude. That may sound cliche, but it works. Gratitude is like a spotlight. It helps you see what's still good, even when things are bad. It keeps you grounded. It reminds you that not everything is falling apart. And most importantly, it creates a mindset that looks for light instead of darkness. Gratitude doesn't ignore problems, but it doesn't give them more power than they deserve. In moments when you feel overwhelmed, you can still acknowledge your struggles without letting them define you. You can say, this is tough, and still choose to move forward. You can feel frustrated and still decide not to dwell in it. Complaining might feel good for a moment, but discipline, mindset, and effort feel good for a lifetime. It's not about pretending everything is okay. It's about refusing to let what's wrong control your whole outlook. In conclusion, complaining doesn't change your reality. It only prolongs your pain. It offers no answers, only echoes. The time and energy you spend talking about the problem could be used to work on the solution. If you want to move forward, if you want real change, you have to stop repeating your problems and start rewriting your path. The world is full of noise. Don't add to it. Be the voice of action, not the echo of frustration. Because in the end, no one ever got anywhere by complaining their way to the top. Progress belongs to those who get up, get moving, and get better, even when it's hard, even when it's unfair, and especially when there's no one else clapping for them. Let the silence of your hustle be louder than the noise of your complaints. There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream for attention, doesn't seek approval, and doesn't need validation. It moves quietly. It holds steady. It endures even when no one is watching. This kind of strength is rare because it's not loud or flashy. It's not the kind you post about on social media or parade in front of others. It's the kind that grows in silence, in solitude, and in moments when you choose to keep going without applause. This is real strength, the kind that doesn't need to be spoken to be seen. Strength is silent. In today's world, people are often quick to speak about their pain, their stress, their struggles. And while there's nothing wrong with expressing emotion or seeking help, there's a line between sharing and depending on others for constant emotional support. Real strength comes when you don't always have to explain yourself. When you learn to carry your burdens without making them your identity. When you choose to rise even when no one knows how heavy life feels. That quiet resilience speaks louder than any complaint ever could. People often mistake silence for weakness. They think if someone isn't speaking up about their problems, they must not have any. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Some of the strongest individuals are the ones who fight their battles privately. They wake up each morning with a storm inside them, but they still show up. They still smile, they still help others, they still get their work done. And they don't talk about how hard it is, not because they're suppressing their emotions, but because they've made peace with the fact that not everyone needs to know what they're going through. They've learned that strength isn't in the talking, it's in the doing. There's something powerful about a person who walks through pain with quiet dignity. They're not seeking sympathy or attention. They're not looking for someone to rescue them. They're simply doing the work, taking the steps, enduring the discomfort, and trusting that in time, they'll come out stronger on the other side. And they will. Because strength, real strength, isn't about how loud you cry. It's about how long you keep walking, even when your feet feel heavy and your heart is tired. We live in a time where vulnerability is celebrated, and rightly so. But it's important to recognize that vulnerability doesn't always have to be public. You can be open with yourself, honest with God, and reflective in private moments without turning your struggles into a broadcast. Not every hardship needs an audience. Not every challenge needs to be narrated in real time. Sometimes the deepest growth happens when you go through something hard and emerge on the other side stronger, wiser, and calmer, without ever needing to explain what happened in between. There's also a kind of power in being the calm in the chaos. When others are panicking, complaining, or breaking down, the strong one is steady. Not because they're emotionless, but because they've built something inside that doesn't shake easily. They've learned that strength is a discipline. It's staying grounded when everything feels unstable. It's responding with clarity when others react with confusion. It's choosing peace when anger would be easier. And most of all, it's the choice to keep showing up day after day without needing credit for it. One of the greatest marks of maturity is realizing that you don't need to prove your strength to anyone. You don't need to list your struggles to be validated. You don't need people to see your pain to know that it's real. You don't have to win sympathy to win the war you're fighting. True strength is self-sustaining. It comes from within. It's not fueled by attention. It's fueled by purpose. When you understand this, your mindset shifts. You stop wasting time trying to make people understand what you're going through. You stop expecting others to carry your emotions. You become your own safe space, your own motivator, your own rescue. And from that place of independence, you become not only stronger for yourself, but for others too. People may never know what you went through. They may never see the nights you cried or the mornings you almost gave up, but they'll see the result. They'll see the stability. the peace, the quiet confidence, and they'll wonder how you do it. That's when you'll realize you didn't have to say a word, you just had to keep going. In conclusion, strength doesn't always shout. It doesn't always wear a badge or carry a banner. Sometimes it whispers in the background of a life lived with quiet courage. Sometimes it's in the person who shows up every day, not because life is easy, but because they refuse to quit. Strength is not found in how loudly you express your pain. It's found in how deeply you endure, how gracefully you move forward, and how consistently you choose not to give up. So if you're walking through something heavy right now, and you feel unseen, unnoticed, or unheard, remember this: your strength is not measured by how many people know your struggle. It's measured by how well you carry it without needing them to. Keep going. Even in silence, your strength speaks volumes. In a world where everyone is talking, posting, explaining, and justifying, there's something rare and deeply impactful about a person who chooses to let their results speak for them. It's easy to talk about your dreams. It's easy to tell people what you're working on, what you're going through, or what you're planning to do. But what truly earns respect isn't the talk. It's the outcome, the finished product, the change, the visible transformation. That's what people remember. That's what people admire. Not the noise, but the result. And that's why one of the wisest choices you can make in life is to stop telling everyone your problems or plans and let your results speak. There's something powerful about keeping your head down and doing the work while everyone else is still trying to be heard. Results can't be debated. They don't need to be explained. They're not based on opinions, emotions, or sympathy. They are proof. When you achieve something, whether it's healing from pain, building something from scratch, or rising from a setback, people see it. They may not have seen the pain or the late nights or the self-doubt, but when the result shows up, they'll notice. And suddenly, all the things you could have said will pale in comparison to what you actually did. Too often, people waste their energy trying to convince others of how hard life is or how much they've been through. They want others to understand their struggle, their obstacles, their intentions. But the truth is, not everyone will understand, and most people aren't really listening as closely as you think. Words can only go so far. Sympathy is short-lived. But when you show up with results, when you overcome in silence and return stronger than before, that speaks volumes, and it sticks. When you focus on your actions instead of your explanations, you shift your mindset from seeking validation to creating impact. You stop waiting for someone to tell you, "I believe in you," and you start showing them why they should. You take control of your own narrative, not through stories and struggles, but through progress and perseverance. Letting your results speak is about choosing action over attention. It's about being more concerned with what you build than who's watching while you build it. It's not that your journey doesn't matter. It does. And it's not that your pain isn't real. It is. But when you make results your voice, your story becomes more powerful because it's backed by evidence. Anyone can talk about change, growth, and overcoming adversity, but the ones who actually do it, those are the people who inspire. And they don't have to shout. Their results do all the talking. Think of the people you admire most. Chances are they didn't win you over with complaints or long explanations. They inspired you because of what they achieved, how they carried themselves, and the example they set. They didn't tell you they were strong, you saw it. They didn't announce their comeback, you witnessed it. That's the power of letting your results speak. When you live this way, you also protect your energy. You don't waste time explaining your every move to people who might not support you anyway. You don't need to constantly defend your path or prove yourself to doubters. You just keep building, keep growing, and let time reveal everything. There's a certain peace in that, a quiet confidence. Because deep down, when the time is right, the results will speak louder than anything you could say. And here's the beautiful thing. Letting your results speak doesn't mean you have to be perfect or achieve massive success overnight. It simply means you commit to growth. You keep showing up. You work on yourself, your craft, your goals, even when no one's watching. You stay consistent. And little by little, your effort adds up. And one day, people will look at you and realize just how far you've come. Not because you told them, but because they can see it. In conclusion, don't waste your breath trying to get everyone to understand your struggle. Don't spend your energy announcing every hardship or every plan. Instead, use that energy to build something that speaks for itself. Let your discipline be louder than your doubt. Let your progress be louder than your pain. Let your comeback be louder than your complaints. And most of all, let your results speak, because when they do, you won't have to say a thing. People will see it, they'll feel it, and they'll respect it. You don't need to tell the world how strong you are. Just become strong and the world will know.